All right, everyone, we are live. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Remso W. Martinez, host of the Remso Republic, and we're doing hopefully something that we can keep doing in the future. We're doing our first Google Hangout. We're going to start doing these more for events and other things that we're covering in the near future if you guys like it. If not, you can just tell me, Remso, I think you've got a face for radio and we can make it work. This isn't exactly Liberty Hangout, but actually, no, we could make it seem a little bit like Liberty Hangout. Nothing but love to those guys, but they know how to do this. So one second. And okay, I've got my white boy hat. Now we're good. I want to go ahead and introduce someone that probably needs no introduction at all. We have the one and only Alex Merced from the Alex Merced Cast joining us for a night to talk about some crazy things that have been happening up here in the swampland known as DC and other stuff like that in general. We're going to be taking your questions, and if we get enough people actually tuning in, we might do a prize drawing. I have enough stuff that we could actually give out if we get enough people coming in, but the hat's ridiculous, my bad. Okay, so let's keep that going. So, Alex, I've been here in DC the last couple of days, and I've never seen so many conservatives in my life. And I've got to say, man, like, it's for a libertarian, it's intoxicating for me because I see so many conservatives, like Turning Point, wearing the whole taxation is theft shirt and stuff. I see so many people talking about, the Constitution and individual liberty and religious liberty. So there are things out there at CPAC right now that are really awesome. And there are a lot of libertarians there. Students for Liberty has a booth. The Stonegate Institute has a booth. But I'm trying to be objective. I'm trying to remember that, there is life before and there is life after CPAC. And hopefully you can kind of draw me out of this. We can focus on a couple things. One thing I want to kind of talk about for a little bit is somebody who has tried to, I'm not going to say he's tried to out Milo, but he's really trying hard to do so. Richard Spencer. What do you know about Richard Spencer?
I didn't know. I was familiar with Richard Spencer. But the problem is that when I listen to Richard Spencer, and I listened to a couple of his interviews today on Al Jazeera and him getting kicked out of CPAC and things like that, and basically the impression I got is that he sounded like a cultural studies professor. So when you listen to, like, let's say, name X studies, so let's say Black studies professor, Latino studies professor, and whatnot, especially some of the more radical professors where they talk about that particular identity and sort of, the hegemony of capitalism is destroying Latino identity, destroying Black identity. It sounds a lot like that, where he's talking about the destruction of white identity. So if anything, to me, it sounds like he comes off like a caricature of that element, which then also calls to sort of the absurdity of identity politics. So it's hard for me to take him seriously. I think it's not necessarily a bad thing for him to show how absurd that sounds, but it scares me the fact that there's some people who take what he's saying very seriously, especially when it's stuff like, basically, what I always notice is the trend with identity politics is, or any group that promotes identity politics, including the alt-right, is that it's always about how society and culture has been unfair to my particular identity, and it's time for us to remake the world in a way that's more fair to my identity, whatever fair is. And I mean, as a libertarian, fair is what you make it, what you can do with your property and your liberty, and all this stuff about controlling immigration and controlling other things beyond, to the extent, especially to the extent that Richard Spencer's talking about it, where he's saying, it's our country. We can just tell people that it's ours and don't touch it. That's like literally the words he used in the Al Jazeera interview. So again, he starts out the argument in a way that you can kind of see where it's coming from. So again, like a lot of other identity speakers, where he starts out with, imagine this person. So he talks about, imagine that person who's got all this debt and they're looking for a job opportunity, and you're like, okay, I can empathize with someone in that situation. But then you can empathize with the premise, but then once he goes further, he starts talking about some really bizarre policy ideas, really bizarre conclusions, and the thing is, I feel like his ideas by the people who do follow him are taken more seriously than necessarily a Milo, who's more obviously provocative. A lot of people follow Milo not necessarily because they agree with him on everything, but more because he's more for the entertainment value. While Richard Spencer is not necessarily very entertaining, people are like listening to him because they actually like agree with aspects of what he's saying.
Do you think he's racist?
I hate the term racist because it means different things to different people. If it means that he like, does it mean if you define racist in the sense that you hate people because of a different race? Maybe not. He doesn't, and I wouldn't even necessarily even say he's a race supremacist. Like, because in his own clear words, and he puts it pretty clearly, if he was a supremacist, you'd want his race to rule over others. But he does definitely see he definitely sees through an identity lens. So just like I don't call other people who are sort of identity preachers racist either. A lot of people like to claim like reverse racism. I just think they're they have a very racial way of looking at the world, which I disagree with. It's very not individualistic, very collectivist. So to me, he's just very collectivist to an extreme. Um, but to the extreme where basically I mean, nationalism as a term. So let's separate white from nationalism. So nationalism usually is just an identity or a philosophy where you believe a nation should be where the nation should follow very specific principles or have a very specific population. You're very focused on the nation. You're not focused on the whole world. You don't care about what the rest of the world is doing. You care about what the nation's doing.
Yeah, and
nationalism. Yep.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in. I mean, the problem with the alt-right in conservative circles is that, I think Delegate Nick Freitas, who was on earlier for season 2 back in January, I think he put it quite clearly. We have a problem defining our terms. And, what does nationalism mean? Well, if nationalism means that we understand our principles as a country, if we try and do things that are in our better interest, then if that's the definition that they're using nationalist with, then, Alex, I'd say that I'm a nationalist. But then you look at other people that are extreme nationalists, and they just call themselves nationalists. North Korea is a very nationalist country, and I don't necessarily think we want to follow their model. And then you look at things like globalist, and, well, if globalism means free trade and easy access to travel through borders and things like that, then I guess I'm a globalist. Or does globalist mean that we're going to deteriorate national sovereignty and we're going to force a one-size-fits-all type of government around the world? Then I'm not a globalist. And with the alt-right, when it comes to Richard Spencer, I mean, it's like word pornography. They're literally just slamming so many things together, and no one knows what the words are anymore. No one necessarily knows what alt-right is. And Richard Spencer, he's essentially the baby daddy of the modern alt-right movement. I mean, people can say it's Steve Bannon all they want, but he's all he did was give it a stage. And Richard Spencer, I have no clue how he started or anything, but he just came out of the woodwork, and now he's got an entire group of people. Tia Tequila is
that was weird.
And she's a flat-out Nazi. I mean, what the heck? When did that happen?
I know. I remember the old days on MySpace when she was just trying to get people to add her on MySpace, and that was like back in the days when like Jeffree Star was getting big and other people and everyone had Tom as a friend. And now Tia Tequila, after having a reality show, is a Nazi. It's a weird world we're living in right now, I must say.
Like literally, that surprises me more than Trump being president sometimes. It does. I mean, of all the people.
It's because it's like so like not very much the last person. I mean, when you're talking about a group that's of the white nationalist group, which is particularly made up of mainly white males, Tia Tequila is kind of the opposite of that. So it is kind of weird. And then she kind of
she knows how to spread the love. She's shown that quite often on her show.
Yeah, yes, and then I mean her base, like for as far as the people she uses, like appeal to, far as we've seen again to be very disparate for who she's appealing to now. So it's just but back to the whole like nationalist, globalist thing. Like to me, when people use the term globalist, nationalist, individualist, it's just to me like what political unit they're focusing on. So a nationalist could be anything. I mean, we could be libertarian nationalists who apply libertarian principles to the nation. I like to consider myself a libertarian individualist, where I care about applying libertarian principles, but focusing on the individual. Well, people could be anything: globalist, nationalist. Are you focusing on the world? Are you focusing on your country? Or are you focusing on individual people? And again, I just find myself as someone who focuses on individual people. So I could see different people using the term nationalist, but again, what gives it its flavor is whatever word you used before nationalist, as far as what you're applying to that unit.
Yeah, and I was at ISFLC on Saturday, and I walked out of the building to go home as soon as Richard Spencer walked in, and you can just If you don't know about that by now, I'll just go ahead and give you the breakdown. He was so close to, getting a libertarian beat down. And I mean, thank God these people believe in the non-aggression principle, because as soon as he set up like his little booth in the corner for the National Policy Institute, I mean, you had like Muslims for Liberty and like outright libertarians and a bunch of other people. You saw like this weird alliance of people come together and try and kick out Richard Spencer, who was not supposed to be there. He wasn't invited, and even if he was asked to have come, they were all probably would have been like, "Well, this." I don't really think they really like intersect at any point. And Jeffrey Tucker was basically like, Richard, this is an anti-fascist event, and the things that you have pushed for are essentially fascist. Leave. And they had the cops drag him out. And today I went to go see Mark Levin and Ted Cruz in the ballroom inside of CPAC, and as soon as I walked by, I saw people swarm around Richard Spencer. And at first I'm like, oh, he's just talking to the prince. No, people loved him. And there have been several people I've met this weekend who have said, yes, I'm a neo-nationalist, in which they, it's called what it is. It's euthanizing the term white nationalist. That's what it is. A neo-nationalist is essentially someone who's technically a white nationalist. And I had someone else say they're a neo-Confederate. Oh, they always take Confederate and they add neo to it. I mean, they're making up these terms to try and downplay and water down their actual beliefs. And there are a lot of people like that. There were several people, and I don't remember the organizations, but you have a lot of people that are like, made in America now. Well, when I think of made in America, I think that's a good thing. I'd like to buy American. But that means I should also have the option of buying Chinese. I should be able to buy Mexican if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. People take these terms, and it's like you're with us or against us. It's one end or the other. And the problem with that is, okay, well, essentially that's anti-fair trade. And Richard Spencer, he's discussed that. And I hate it when people make up new terms. And I've done this before. I've made up 20 million different ways to describe myself because I want to be super unique in how I throw things out there. And there are 20 million different things. I mean, look at libertarians. How many different types of libertarians can you name off the top of your head, Alex?
Probably 20 or 30.
Let's try it. Let's try it. Go.
Okay. Minarchists, anarcho-capitalists, Georgists, libertarian light, pragmatic libertarians, voluntarists, libertarian, left libertarian, conservatarian. There's more. There's certainly more because I just literally did a poll.
So we've got 8 right now.
So far, and I mean, you can think of like. There's actually people who will call themselves libertarian socialists, which doesn't make any sense. Libertarian, you can find libertarian anything. I'm sure there's probably like libertarian supremacists out there, which would make no sense.
But you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. And Richard made up a new term, and I'm probably getting it wrong because I'm like dead tired, folks. I work hard to get you all those live streams where everyone's like, the audio is terrible. And then I'm like, here's the support link. And it's like, chirp, chirp, crickets. Anyway, he created a term called identitarianism. And essentially, the concept of identitarianism is that, the mixing of the races leads to conflicts because of an inherent disdain for each other, while at the same time, it promotes the fact that people are better when they live amongst people that are like them. So, according to him, Anglo-Europeans should stick to Europe. People of Arab or Persian descent should stay in the Middle East. Asians should stick to Asia, and et cetera, et cetera. And, Richard Spencer has found allies and people that believe this. He met a person from India who's an identitarian, and he believes the fact that, American jobs being outsourced to India is a bad thing because now you have Indians who are working for American companies. And it's really stupid because, I mean, come on, you could stick you could fill up an entire room of Mexicans, and you can get another room, and you can fill up an entire room of white people. And according to their logic, they're going to get along and they're all going to thrive. And, if you were to lock them in the room and say, get out, they'd suddenly just work together and do it. No, you're going to have people that fight each other. I mean, it's, as you said, it's a collectivist mindset. It takes the individual nature out of it. Besides, it's like, what do you do with people like me? My mom was born in Korea. My dad's from Puerto Rico. They both had one parent For my mom, it was her dad, and for my dad, it was his mom that were from Michigan. So then it's like, what do you do with the mixing of cultures and races? I mean, it makes no sense. He wanted to create something smart, or something that at least sounded smart, because inherently it's really stupid.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And I mean, that's the thing, is that the things that he's doing wrong are the same things that the people who claim like political correctness are going wrong. He's just taking it in a different direction. And the thing I've always likened like political correctness and basically the idea that you can't mix ideas, that you can't mix races, that you can't mix. It's like an informal intellectual property. Like, what's the problem with intellectual property? If you start going to like the work of Stefan Kinsella or someone like that, as far as you're basically saying that someone has a monopoly over an idea. So having monopoly over language, even though we don't have a formal government saying, okay, you can't use it, you have sort of a social enforcement of through shame or through whatnot of saying, okay, you can't say this, you can't mix this, and you're preventing innovation, because innovation comes from mixing things, whether it's mixing races, mixing ideas, mixing cultures. You come up with new things. I mean, think of like Korean taco trucks. I mean, those are
Oh
things.
my
Those are
gosh, those are basically life.
that is basically life. I totally agree. That wouldn't exist if we weren't mixing cultures. And that's a whole new. I mean, that's a whole new thing. How many Korean taco businesses are there now? Those are new jobs that didn't exist for people before because we mix cultures. So you need a free market in culture and mixing. We want to encourage diversity because it creates new opportunities that didn't exist before. Because you create new products, new ideas, new demands that never existed before. But if you, it's basically this whole identitarianism is essentially just racial protectionism, and it has all the same problems that normal protectionism has.
Yeah. And the thing that bothers me to like the nth degree is the fact that there's so many libertarians, and I will give the alt right this, and this isn't me. This is Senator Mike Lee. Um, he said the one thing that the alt right has done is it has allowed people to identify issues that people on the right have ignored. And the alt right, whether we want to believe it or not, they're the leaders in the fight against social justice warriors on campus. Not because they're right, it's because they were the loudest and they're the ones that brought attention to it, and they're the ones that seem to get the mass effect. The alt right were the ones that brought up the fact that trade deals aren't that great, and we missed blue collar America. And I'm not saying all blue collar America, blue collar workers are the alt right, but you had a lot of them that were kind of pushed into this whole, the Mexicans are taking our job. It's like, no, I went to Sam's Club a couple weeks ago and I saw a machine in there that straight up dispenses little plastic cups filled with microwave tilapia. And across from that was a little old woman. And I'm looking at these two things and I'm like, she's not going to lose her job to a Mexican. She's going to lose it to that freaking tilapia dispensing machine that you just scan your Sam's Club card under and it pops out freaking tilapia. I mean, this is a world we live in. So the alt-right does bring attention to things, but it has this whole racial protectionism that we've mentioned. And the thing that really bothers me, one of the reasons why I stopped writing for the Liberty Conservative, it used to be called the Liberty Conservative Magazine, and I still have so much respect for some of the writers there. Gavin Wax, who's a friend, and Joel Curtinitis, who's such an amazing writer and he's such an amazing thinker. Like, he's one of the few people in the conservative movement that I think isn't just a commentator, but he's an intellectual powerhouse. Joel Curtinitis has gone to do amazing things. Highly recommend his work. But they brought in a whole bunch of people that they self-identify as the alt-right, but because they have some libertarian principles, they are calling themselves alt-right libertarians. So that kind of leads to the next thing. I know we just found our ninth. We just found
Yeah,
our ninth.
there we go. There's another one.
TV. I put up okay, 9. We found our ninth. Alt-right libertarians right there. Okay. Someone's got a comment. You don't know how to count. Yeah, whatever. I went to public school. Give me a break.
Me too.
So, right there. Does the alt-right have anything in common with libertarians? And could they be allies?
I mean, I think libertarians are going to share something with everybody because at the end of the day, libertarians are for live and let live. So everybody loves live and let live when it means living the way they want. So they're always going to have an overlap in being able to live the way they want. Where people lose that overlap is when they don't want others to live the way that they don't want. So basically, in the sense that libertarians are going to have alignment with the alt-right in the sense of government shouldn't be in the way of them living their lives the way they want. So if them being able to say something horrible or be able to express themselves, we're going to be in alignment with it because we're for letting you live your life with your property. Your body's your property, your mouth's your property, your negative rights. But again, the difference is that we are uniformly that way towards everybody. And that's where we're always going to have some alignment, but we're always going to have big disagreements. And back to the trade thing for a moment. I mean, that was one of the reasons I really did think that, I saw early on that Trump was probably going to win because that was the same thing that appealed to Bernie Sanders. A lot of people appealed to both of them because of the trade issue, because there is a huge amount of former middle class America that was on the losing end of globalization. So while I feel the globalization and bigger, more global markets was a good thing overall for most people, there's winners and losers, and there were losers, and they were and basically the parents, I mean basically people who lost their jobs at a factory, those were Trump supporters, a lot of them. And people who were the children of those people who lost jobs at the factories, those were Bernie supporters, a lot of them, who did feel that and then basically why it was no surprise that a lot of Bernie supporters did end up voting for Trump because of that issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're always going to share something with those who want to live the way they want to live.
Yeah. I think it just really kind of, and I'm going to upset some people when I say this, but something really triggered me in one of the articles I read on the Liberty Conservative, because they actually have I don't know what his name is, but they actually hired someone who's actually a pretty remarkable political cartoonist. And I started somewhat getting into political cartoons because I need a new hobby. But this guy's phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. So it's nothing against his art. And I think he actually captures the essence of certain things. So definitely check it out. I mean, it's funny. He has funny stuff. But for this one article where it was like, it's now it's time for the rise of alt-right libertarianism, they showed like this weird, evil, satanic, bastardized love child of Pepe the Frog and Ron Paul. And it's Ron Paul basically is Pepe. And it's like, it's happening. And I'm watching this. I'm just like, that is absolutely terrifying.
Mm-hmm. That would have triggered me too.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I need a safe space right now.
I'm triggered. Like I'm like that woman with the glasses, and she's just like everything is just shaking, like she's about to explode. But one thing I'm glad I brought this hat down. I loved a lot of the vendors here at CPAC, and they've got this one sponsor there, and it's just called Save the American Inventor. And I think of all the just when I saw it, and I wanted to have an idea of what it was before I actually went up and learned more about this organization. But you look at the American Inventor, and the first people I think of are Nikolai Tesla, immigrant. I think of the Wright brothers, bicycle shop owners. I think of everyone basically involved in what I forgot, was it Lawrence or Leonard Reed? It's one of the Reeds. Leonard Reed, who wrote I Pencil, and how everyone comes together to just work on the little parts of a pencil to do that. And then you look at all the amazing innovators. You look at the gig economy, which we're so passionate about right now, and people finding new ways. I mean, Uber, there's nothing smart about Uber. Uber is actually not smart at all. But what it did was it provided a simple service that changed everything. I mean, it just made sense that eventually we'd be able to call a taxi easily from an app on our phone. It was coming, but for generations, no one did it. I mean, we could have had Uber when the smartphone came out. People saw a way to speed things up. It's like Domino's Pizza. Domino's does not consider itself a pizza company. Domino's considers itself a technology company that serves pizza. And every year, they want to take off 5 seconds of the delivery time. And they want to make it an enjoyable experience. I mean, people are finding amazing things to do with that. And you only find that in cultures and nations that actually respect people to do what they need to do. And the alt-right doesn't do that. The alt-right, in its own way, are a bunch of social justice warriors.
That's exactly right, because they're basically making the same arguments. They're only swapping out the variable. So instead of Black Lives Matter, instead of whatever rights matter, they're just saying white lives matter. But it's the same. They're making the same arguments and then casting aspersions on social justice. So when you said they are the most visible people fighting against social justice warriors, but they're basically being social justice warriors and doing it. They're just using a different social justice. They want social justice for white identity, but they're literally arguing nothing all that different.
Is Tia
Although you got me.
Tequila white?
Say it again. I have no idea. I always
She looks mixed.
assumed that she wasn't.
Because it'd be really
A lot
awkward
of
if
people
she
are.
was like a Nazi and she's like, she does not kick. She's not meet the Aryan cookie cutter concept of a Nazi at that point.
It makes me think of all those episodes of the Chappelle Show.
Oh my gosh. With the black guy that was raised as a white
Yeah.
supremacist and he divorced.
Or Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks.
Oh my god. Okay, so there are cases. There are cases, even fictional, but there are cases of this actually happening. So, yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say on the Uber bit, because I mean Uber is amazing, but I mean you're right. It's a simple idea, and as technology evolved, it enabled these ideas from happening. And but I think there's a bigger thing with the sharing economy. So it's quick little diatribe, because here's how I bridge Marxist ideas with libertarianism. And I know that sounds like a really weird diatribe. But
Did we just make a 10th category?
No. There are no such thing as a Marxist libertarian. That's not a thing. But the point I always like to make, because when I talk to like Marxists and I'm trying to sell, because Marx's fundamental insight, he took something what's called the Hegelian dialect, the whole idea that conflict creates something new, and argued, well, from you had feudalism, and the conflicts within feudalism created capitalism. That's eventually capitalism would evolve into something else. The problem is he hypothesized that it would evolve into something more communal, which is incorrect, because if you take a look at history, feudal was more communal than capitalism, and we're moving to something much more individualistic now. So I agree that conflict would occur within capitalism, but what you're going to have on the other end is much more individualistic, much more, and that's what the sharing economy is. It's that evolution into a more individual-based economy, where now, instead of large enterprises, you really talk about everyone being their own boss, everyone being a freelancer, everyone, instead of needing large enterprises, you're having enterprises of one, and that's the economic evolution. And then that's been the trajectory of history. So essentially, yes, the Hegelian dialect applied, he just applied it incorrectly. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, no, exactly. Besides, I mean, we're talking about the entrepreneur, the innovator, the person that actually goes out there and does something for themselves, the freelancer. Nothing breaks down just this, classist mindset, this identity politics mindset than people taking care of themselves and breaking stereotypes. I've been taking Uber a lot more than I ever have the last couple of days, going back and forth between the hotel, because the metro is basically Dante's Inferno. But I mean, one of my drivers was a white dude that got laid off from like 10 years of construction, and he decided to drive Uber. Another one of my drivers was a dude named Hashnish, and I just screwed up his name so badly. If he's watching this, I apologize. But he's Saudi Arabian, and he came here like 20 years ago, and he's driving Uber because he liked. It's easy work. He doesn't want to do much. As he brought up, he works to live. He doesn't live to work, and I respect that. If that's what you're happy with doing, then you're perfectly fine with that. That's cool. But he was a cool guy. And then my driver coming back home was, she was a black woman that was just working. And I mean, we didn't talk much, but you see this one thing that allows everyone to pitch in and essentially be their own boss. Think how many people would think for themselves if they were actually told you are an individual, you are uniquely special, and you can go out and do something for yourself instead of constantly pounding down people. And even when it's like, it's pro-white or it's pro-black or something like that, it's still beating you down, because what it is it's taking you out of you. And that's the dangerous thing.
Correct, because basically, if people don't believe that they're responsible for their outcomes, that there's every other factor in the world that's no longer in their control is responsible for the outcomes, the less they take responsibility and take action over their outcomes. And that's the thing. Like that's why I always tell people, like, there's a difference between something being a right versus something being a privilege. If something's a right, you just feel entitled to it. You don't feel like you should have to work for it. When something is a privilege, then while people shouldn't have to Like a right, that's why negative rights are important, because these are things you don't have to work for. I don't have to work to speak. I'm just born able to speak. I'm born alive. So that's my those these are I have a right to my life and a right to speak and all that stuff. But again, a right to healthcare. Again, I don't have a I'm not entitled to somebody else's labor, but it's a privilege that I hope to have, and I'm gonna hope to try to give that to myself by working hard.
Exactly. I kind of want to start wrapping things up because I think we're getting to like the perfect point where we can connect all of this so far. And I love doing this. I love doing this. I love taking something and going in a completely different direction, but having it all make sense at the end. It's like Twilight Zone stuff. I love it. But like we brought up at the beginning, yeah, I see it more so of conservatives, but because I kind of step between both worlds, I see it a lot with libertarians as well. The alt-right, I just don't think it's right. And I don't necessarily like I'm trying to find a way to do this because I know I'm going to trigger some people. But a lot of, I don't believe in the left-right paradigm. It's just fake. But I always thought that libertarians found more allies in the right than they did with the left, per se. I mean, everyone talks about Rothbard's leftist years, and there's this myth that it was beneficial, but no, Rothbard even says, yeah, trying to ally yourself with the left, it just doesn't go anywhere. And I mean, I ticked a lot of people off when I said a few months ago, okay, I'm switching my party affiliation from LP to Republican because I feel like this is where I'm meant to go. I'm not telling other people to switch. I'm not. And if you're thinking that, no, that's wrong. I just felt like that's where I needed to go. But I always felt like libertarians and conservatives, they always just naturally were allies with each other. The problem wasn't necessarily understanding the function of the state. It was just understanding, at what level are certain things appropriate. Because, I think both conservatives and libertarians, they push for the individual, whereas modern day progressivism is essentially cancerous because it promotes a collectivist mentality, this one-size-fits-all mentality for life, and it takes the individual out of the equation. So if the alt-right coming in, do you think that, we even have, and I don't know your opinion on this, so feel free to jump in and, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think that libertarians are being pushed out by the alt-right?
Well, here's my perspective is, one, we should be hitting Alt-Control-Delete on the alt-right. But the thing is, I don't believe that the natural ally of libertarians is the right or the left.
Okay.
To me, it's always those without power, because what libertarians offer is a way of achieving what you want to achieve without the need for government power. So if you're that person who doesn't have a president right now, who doesn't have a Congress and a Senate right now, libertarianism offers you a path that you didn't have before. Like I grew up as a left-leaning person during the Bush years. So basically, I was looking at left-wing issues, but looking at it the perspective that, oh, government's bad because Bush was president.
Mm-hmm.
And that primed me for that anti-government message. Like the people who were growing up as like younger left-leaning kids during the Obama administration, it's going to be a lot harder to make them a libertarian. But people who are growing up now, who are like 10, 12, 13, 14 right now, who are going to grow up over the next Trump years, but who are left-leaning, they're going to be super primed for libertarianism, because over the next few years, they're going to grow up arguing against the government, looking at skepticism for the government, priming them for when that election time comes, for whoever that lucky person is, whether it's Rand Paul with the Republicans or whether it's Larry Sharpe with the Libertarians, to really be inspired towards libertarianism. Like
I just want to validate one thing. I've always said, and this hasn't changed, if the LP can give me Larry Sharpe, I will go absolutely nuts crazy running in the street nude with a sign for Larry Sharpe. So just want to throw that out there. I'm not a complete sellout, folks. I'm not a complete one.
I will do everything in my power to make Larry Sharpe the governor of New York, and if so be it, the president of the United States in 2020. I have complete faith in Larry Sharpe.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But bottom line to me, like libertarianism is the path for those who aren't looking for power as a solution. And so to me, that could be anybody, anywhere. So that's why we have a natural alliance with everybody, but we also have a natural antagonism, because then we're also the antagonist of whoever has power and wants to use power, because we're the same one saying, no, put it down, don't use it. So to me, we're going to be naturally antagonistic to the right for the next few years, because they have power now. So while they're cozying up to us libertarians over the years have helped them get back into power, now that they have it, they're going to be like, no, why do you mean don't use it? But we worked so hard to get this. It's so nice and pretty. So to me, you're going to see a realignment a little bit. I wouldn't say you're going to suddenly see socialists become libertarian friendly, but on the fringes, as far as the or sort of well, I'd say the marginal conservative and the marginal liberal, you're going to start seeing a realignment among them and sort of libertarians in and outside of the Libertarian Party, just because of that power dynamic and what we offer to those without power.
Gotcha. Anyway, Alex, we're going to wrap up tonight. If people want to get one of those awesome shirts you're wearing, how can they do so?
Now, see, this shirt shows you all the cool libertarian podcasts, including the Remso Republic. If you want to get one of these shirts, just go to libertarianpodcast.com, where you can find a list of all libertarian podcasts that I'm aware of. And also, you can go to my website, alexmerced.com, where you can get that shirt. You can also get the Make Markets Free Again t-shirt. And there's a lot of other really cool t-shirts there that you might enjoy. Especially, I think, one that I just released, which is Negative Rights Matter.
That's a shirt now?
That's a shirt now. You can get it over there at alexmerced.com.
Oh my gosh. I know people who are going to want that. I'm going to get that shirt once I can. Oh my gosh. That is hilarious.
Yeah, I've been just trying to think of cool slogans, and there's been a lot of other stuff. So you go to alexmerced.com, you can see this actually 8 podcasts that I'm doing right now, really 6 weekly. And then also I've started a couple. I started getting into the cartooning thing too. I don't draw well, but I created with some others a cartoon character by the name of Rothiek Randbard, sort of a more radical libertarian cartoon bear. You can like him on Facebook, and just see what kind of troublemaking he makes. So there's a lot of that. I'm involved in a lot of things. Also helping out Larry Sharp with his campaign for governor, and I'll have personally some really interesting announcements over the next couple of weeks regarding my next political effort. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I tried to do one spin-off apart from the regular show, and that was terrible. But yeah, no, that's absolutely awesome. It's ironic that we both got into political cartoons at the same time, because I just like to doodle, and I was like, oh, this would be fun. And I did. I'm just gonna boast about myself for a second. I didn't want to. I went to Barnes and Noble, and I saw they were selling like 7 different editions of the Communist Manifesto, and I'm just like, this is like proof that communism fails. So I drew a picture of Karl Marx holding up a Kindle. And he's like, you could buy it now in ebook form for $9.99 and all this other stuff. That's awesome. But yeah, and folks, I'm not as innovative as Alex, but I've got some great affiliate sponsors. Like right here, you've got the Statue of Liberty holding an AR-15. Go ahead and go to remsorepublic.com. And for support, you can find our link to Libertarian Country and go and get the shirt yourself. We were not able to meet our Swagger Wagon goal to get us a CPAC. We wanted to raise $300. Instead, we were able to make it up to about $165. So buying a shirt, especially one as cool as this one, and I went to Walmart wearing this, and people got mad. But that would definitely help us out. So yeah, we've got some more CPAC coverage. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Remso101, and producer Ryan, he stepped out. He's at Liberty Producer. We've got some funny stuff going on. But yeah, Alex, thank you so much for coming on. I greatly appreciate it, man. We got to do this again soon. Anytime, man. Thank you very much. It's been a blast. Outstanding. Have a good night, folks. Take care.